Hey y'all, so 6 months ago in a poorly lit room in my grandparents' house, I made a video where I detailed my 5 challenges for my 2016 reading challenges, and today, since it is 6 months through the year, I decided that I would go ahead and record a video doing an update on how I'm doing on my challenges for the year. So let's go ahead and jump into these updates and see how well I'm doing. The first challenge that I gave myself in 2016 was to read 7 books that were 500 pages or more, because in 2015 I attempted to read 5 books that were 700 pages or more and failed. So far, as it stands this year, I have read 4 books that are over 500 pages, so far I am on track to complete the challenge by the end of the year, since that is slightly more than halfway through. And those 4 books that I have read that are over 500 pages are The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which, even if you cut it in half, would still be 500 pages or more. So I'm doing pretty well on that first challenge, given that I am over halfway through with it. So the second challenge that I gave myself for 2016 is that I wanted to read/catch up to at least 5 series in 2016, with the catch being that I had to read at least 3 books from that series in 2016. Meaning that if I read an entire trilogy in 2016, it would count. But if I had already started a trilogy in 2015 and I read books 2 and 3 in 2016, that wouldn't count because I would have only read 2 books from that trilogy in 2016. And the main point of this challenge for me was that there are several series that I've been meaning to read for quite a while that have 3 or more books out, and I was trying to push myself to start those series. So far in 2016, this is one challenge that I'm not doing quite so well on. Since we're halfway through the year, I would expect to have read 2 or 3 series, or at least caught up to 2 or 3 series, and so far I have read 1. So far this year I have read the entirety of the Reckoners trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, but that is the only series that I have caught up to this year. Which is a bit of a bummer, given that, like I said, this challenge was because I wanted to read some of those longer series that I keep putting off, and I obviously still haven't read them. But there are some of those that are high up on my TBR to read soon, so I do think that I will be able to read this by the end of the year and complete this challenge, but so far I'm not doing super well on it. So just very quickly, I do want to show you some of the books that I do hope and intend to use for this challenge. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which I've been meaning to read for like 2 years now. The Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. The Tearling trilogy, or the Queen of the Tearling trilogy by Erica Johansson. The first 2 books are out so far, and I've read the first one, and the 3rd book should be coming out later this year. So if I read the 2nd and 3rd ones, I will be caught up to a trilogy, and I will have read all 3 books in the trilogy this year. And finally, the Magic 2.0 trilogy by Scott Meyer, which I've been meaning to get to forever. So the third challenge that I gave myself was that I wanted to get my TBR down to 35% of my library from, I believe, 46%, which was where it was at when I filmed that video. So since February, I've been on a book buying restriction where I can buy 1 book every time I read 2 books. I haven't been strictly keeping to that over the past couple months, just because I bought some books for my birthday and for graduation, and then I tried to make up for it by reading a bunch, and it's really wonky right now. I think it should even out a little bit, but I digress. Right now, I just did the math, and my TBR is sitting at 35.5% of my library, so I'm almost to my goal. Of course, this could be ruined by me buying 5 books in one fell swoop, but as it sits right now, halfway through the year, I'm pretty much to my goal, which I am really excited about. Hopefully, if I continue to do my book buying restriction where I buy 1 book for every 2 that I read, I can get this down even further by the end of the year, maybe even to 30%. I'm not going to hold myself to that, but that is something that I think right now I am striving toward. The 4th reading challenge that I gave myself was that I wanted to start and complete or catch up to at least 5 manga, comic, or graphic novel series. And so far this year I have read 3 complete series, those being the Infernal Devices manga adaptations by Cassandra Clare, the Scott Pilgrim graphic novel series by Brian Lee O'Malley, and the Death Note manga series by Tsugumi Oba. So since that is a little bit over half, I am right on track for this challenge. And I've also read the first 2 volumes of Lumberjanes, so I think I only need to read 1 or 2 more to be caught up to the series by the end of the year, so that's a potential 4th one that I'm already halfway to. And finally, the last challenge that I gave myself for 2016 was to read 50 books, which I failed at last year. And currently my Goodreads is showing that I have read 42 books already this year. Now, of course, a fairly sizable number of those books are graphic novels or manga or comics, so of course this isn't 42 full novels that I've read this year, but I put my goal at 50 with the thought that I would be reading those graphic novels and I would also be reading longer novels like The Way of Kings, so I definitely think that I'm doing really well at this challenge so far this year. I've considered raising it to 75 given that I'm already almost done with my challenge for the year, but for now I'm gonna leave it at 50. If I get to 50 by like the end of August, which is not unlikely, then I will probably raise it by a little bit, but I don't guarantee that it'll be all the way up to 75. Especially given that in the second half of the year I'm going to be focusing more on novel series rather than on comic, graphic novel, manga series, so those will take a little bit longer than the comics, graphic novels, and manga did. So as it sits, I am currently either on track or ahead of all of my challenges except for one, so far I'm doing pretty well in 2016. Although this wasn't an official challenge, I did make a book bucket list 2016, and I will leave a link to that in the cards. And I just did want to briefly update y'all on how I'm doing on that, although it's not an official TBR. There were 16 books in that list, and so far I have read 6 of them, so not amazingly well, but I am almost halfway through that list, so maybe by the end of the year I will have completed my book bucket list 2016 as well. So like I said, if you do want to check that out, it'll be up in the cards, as well as the video where I announced these 2016 challenges. So that is it for this update video. I hope that y'all enjoyed this little update, and I hope that y'all are doing well on your reading challenges for 2016 as well. As always, I will leave links down in the description to my blog, Twitter, and Goodreads. Please add me as a friend on Goodreads. I would love to be friends with all of you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!